We're sitting here, Adam. It's a beautiful view. You keep saying you're going to leave, Adam. I don't see any sign of it.
Yeah. In 1997, we interviewed then Bruce Jenner. I said, that dude's turning into a chick. Everyone looked at me and went, what? I don't know what you're talking about. I grew up with poor people. They're not noble. They're not hardworking. They're not smarter. They're mostly idiots who don't work hard enough.
Maybe you are conservative.
Gyno-fascism. I figured you'd make that look. Justin Trudeau thinks like a chick. You can tell, watch them cross their legs. Watch Obama and Trudeau and Newsom. When they cross their legs, it's a full chick. And they're signaling, they're presenting. They're going, I have chick dick. It's happening, it's going to happen, and it will fuck up our society.
TRIGGERnometry is proudly independent, and sponsors like Hillsdale College make that possible. Access their free library of world-class educational courses at hillsdale.edu/trigger.
Adam?
Yeah.
Back to TRIGGERnometry.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on. Last time we were here was a year ago, right around the time of the election.
Yeah.
You were happy. It was the first time we'd seen you happy.
Well, the bloom was off the rose, fellas, because I'm pissed again.
What happened? They burned your house down?
I just settled into my homeostasis of unhappy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not an unhappy person. I find fault in a lot of things, you know, and then I get agitated and then I want to fix them, but no one else. It's really my agitation is people not finding fault in the things I find fault in. You know, I can't, if I go into a restaurant or a diner and I see it says push or pull on the handle of the door, I'm already agitated because I don't think push and pull should be so close to one another. So they have PU, 4 letters, and everyone grabs it and hits it, and I'm already pre-agitated. I don't know, in merry old London town, is it push and pull? Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what if it was push and yank? Wouldn't that be a lot better?
That is a very American, like yank.
Yank, but it wouldn't be confusing. It wouldn't be confusing, is all I'm saying. So anyway, I see things, I want to fix them, no one else does, and then I get frustrated. And then I get into this state of agitation.
Well, since we last saw you, a lot's gone on politically, but also in terms, I joked about the burning your house down. Obviously, there was the terrible fires here in LA.
Mm-hmm.
What have you made of the last year?
I mean, Trump is doing what he's gonna do. I think the folks that are on the left or Democrats are against Trump. I'm a little surprised that they've, you know, not given up the ghost a little bit. I thought it would be second term. We now know Trump. We went through 4 years of Trump, and he didn't, you know, he's not a dictator, and our democracy was intact, and we had another election, and he didn't burn the place down, pardon the pun. So Newsom burned the place down. But I thought there'd be less general agitation the second time around, just because I thought there'd be a familiarity and a kind of a thing where they just got tired. But I didn't know they were going to ratchet it up.
Well, I don't know if you remember, this is one of the things we discussed last time. We were in LA as the election happened, and all the people we'd spoken to before, like, you're going to LA right before the election. If Trump wins, it's going to go crazy. And literally nothing happened because everyone accepted the outcome. Mm-hmm. But it does seem like now that pressure is being ratcheted up again in terms of all the protests, the riots, etc.
Yeah, I'm constantly sort of amazed that people have energy for this stuff. I mean, just in general, like sort of as an adult, you know, but it's sort of micro in its macro. Like, I was driving somewhere there last week, and I was like on the freeway, and it was very crowded. It was like 6 o'clock, and I was on the 101, and I tried to change lanes, and I signaled, and then I sort of started to move out about 3 foot, and I saw in my rear view there was a truck coming at a good rate of speed from behind. I didn't cut him off. I didn't do anything. I just sort of saw him coming and I went, oh, okay. And I went back into my lane because I saw the truck coming. And the guy slowed down when he got right next to me and started riding the horn and sort of yelling at me. And I was like, I started to change lanes, and I saw you, then I pulled back. So I don't know, go ahead. And then a few moments later in traffic, a couple hundred feet down the freeway, I started coming up on him and he started turning into me to drive me off the road, but you know, in a sort of slow motion kind of way, like he was sort of gesturing, but he had gotten his car and I had to move, you know, to the shoulder otherwise. And then at a certain point, 100 yards later, I came up on him again and he started doing, and I was like, I don't know where the energy, where does this energy come from? Like, you're an adult, I'm an adult.
Are you sure he didn't recognize you, Adam?
He may have not liked me. You're going somewhere. I'm going somewhere.
Right.
I tried to change lanes. I saw you, and then I moved back. That's it. That's all. And I feel the same way about the people in Portland and the Antifa and like middle-aged and older women screaming at the top of the, you know, spending a Saturday holding up a cardboard sign. Like, I don't know, but during COVID, all the Karens, you know, pull up your mask, you know, when you're walking your dog outside. Like, I don't know where the energy comes from. Do you guys, like, are you surprised that there's this much energy over nothing? Or the Trump's ballroom? I don't know. Who cares? He's building a ballroom. They need a ballroom. Someone else will pay for it. I don't know. Who cares? Like, do we need to pour all of our intensity and energy into everything all the time? It'll all quickly be forgotten. No one will care, and we'll just turn the page. But where does that energy come from?
Well, I think this might be an uncharitable interpretation, but I think for someone like you who has a job that they enjoy, family, kids, you know, a nice house, all of that, doing that kind of stupid shit doesn't make any sense. But if you have no meaning in your life, if your life kind of sucks,
yes,
then you can give it some meaning by going out and fighting for a cause or tweeting for a cause, right?
Yes.
Now, I say this is an uncharitable interpretation. They might say, you know, we're trying to save the country or whatever.
Right.
But I do think underneath that, there's probably quite a lot of personal dissatisfaction.
I would hope so. I pray you're right. Because if they're really satisfied and happy at the end of the day, I'm really going to be miserable.
Yeah, I just think people latch onto these causes because it gives them, it doesn't only give all of that, it also gives you a sense of purpose.
Yes.
You know, you're no longer working in recruitment and you hate your job and, you know, you don't really get on with your girlfriend or your spouse that much. All of a sudden, when Saturday comes, you're an activist. You're doing something.
No, I get the purpose part, and I think that everyone needs it, and they will find it in ways that are not really healthy if they don't find a healthy purpose. And I've always sort of thought that it's about projects and being engaged and working with your hands and having lots of stuff sort of on your plate to deal with. And I mean, you know, you get back to these adages, you know, the devil makes work for idle hands and that kind of stuff. But, you know, I think these guys knew what they were talking about when they were crafting these adages, you know, so many years ago, which is, I've really been thinking about the move from the rural society and farming and logging and milking and, you know, plucking chickens and, you know, churning butter to sort of cubicles and air conditioning and sort of what that's done to the psyche of human beings.
Look, absolutely. And also as well, there is a large part of this, I think, that is down to people not having kids.
Yes.
If you don't, because if you've got kids, you don't have a moment. You don't have a moment. You're not going to want to go to a Palestine protest because you've got a 3-year-old running around.
It's also prevents you from footage of you in an inflatable Snoopy outfit punching an ICE agent because that's unbecoming of dad or mom.
Yeah.
Like it prevents you, you know, it probably prevents you from doing porn and like other things as well, because now you have a witness to your life, right? So it engages you. B, you sort of pass it through a filter. Like, well, would you like your kid doing this when they're in their 40s? You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't wish that upon them. You would hope they would be doing something more constructive. But also, you now have these little witnesses who are going to see you forever on the internet making an ass of yourself.
Oh, absolutely. But you know, we're sitting here, Adam. It's a beautiful view. The view, LA, the sun is shining, and you keep saying you're going to leave, Adam. I don't see any sign of it.
Yeah. I'm trying to build a house in Nevada, and you're right. It's hard. It's hard to leave this view in this weather. And but I bought land. I got plans, and I haven't broken ground yet, but I have the land and I have the plans. So I'm moving toward building and moving to Nevada.
He's never going to leave us.
You love it here too much. Come on.
It's hard to blame you. It's amazing.
It is. It is amazing. Yeah, but that's the whole thing. I mean, when you are, a place that isn't this, you have to sort of work for it. And I think it's probably something we've discussed, but it's kind of baked in. I mean, it sounds dumb, or like I'm just making a metaphor, but I'm really not, which is California is a hot blonde that never had to study because her phone was always ringing and there was always someone buying her drinks and dinner and there was always something to do. And so you take these other states, and these other states who don't have this to offer, they're like, look, we got to study, we got to out compete, we got to work harder, we got to lower our taxes, we have to make it attractive, we have to attract people to come here, which is we don't need to do that. And LA in California sort of got by on topography for a long time. Like, you can go, we'd say it, you could be skiing up in the hills and 2 hours later be surfing, in Malibu, who else? And so we sort of, what we did, like the hot blonde, is we went, we don't have to study. We don't have to spend all day at the gym. We just show up in a sundress and everyone comes to us, But at a certain point, the blonde turns 45 and people aren't as attracted and the suitors aren't calling and there's not a date every Saturday night. And that's kind of what California is. Like, it was a really attractive blonde who's now got some crow's feet and a little gray and is starting to age out. And now has to go get a law degree or something. Like, you got to hit the books. You got to do something. You got to be a board certified something or a CPA or something. You need to get a job at this point. You just being hot and blonde was good for 40 years, but the ride's over.
Yeah. You made an interesting point coming back a little bit about people doing things with their hands, and also Francis brought up people not having kids. I remember reading a long time ago a book by, I think he was a primatologist, so he studied apes, called Desmond Morris, and he wrote a book called The Human Zoo. And his basically central argument was, when you put people into cities, they start behaving like animals in captivity. Mm-hmm. They have fewer kids, they get mentally distressed, they become lethargic. Basically, there's more interpersonal violence. Like, if you put people in these conditions, mm-hmm. you end up in a kind of very unhealthy place for human beings. Do you think we're seeing that play out now? Imagine having a personalized health blueprint, a plan built just for you based on exactly what your body needs. That is what Superpower delivers. Their goal is to help you reach your full 100-year potential. Here's how it works. A licensed professional comes to your home, or you visit a nearby lab for a single lab test that looks at over 100 biomarkers: heart health, liver function, thyroid, hormones, metabolism, vitamin and mineral levels, and even environmental toxins. Check it out at superpower.com. Have you ever left a doctor's appointment feeling like you got nothing useful? Maybe they just said, "You're fine," or told you to drink more water. No real data, no game plan, just a pat on the back. That is where Superpower comes in. The results are not just numbers on a page. Superpower turns them into a personalized action plan with targeted supplements, nutrition, and lifestyle changes you can start right away. You will even learn your true biological age and how to improve it. Each year, you build on your data, seeing exactly how your choices are shaping your long-term health. Normally, it's $499, but right now it's just $199 for the full test and plan, which is far less than what other services charge for less comprehensive results. Visit superpower.com to learn more and lock in the special $199 price while it's still available. When you sign up, they will ask how you heard about them, so just say TRIGGERnometry. That site again is superpower.com.
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing is kind of an experiment on humans as a species. So, we understand chimps and we understand seals and whales and whatever, and you take the killer whale who's supposed to be combing the oceans, hunting, and you put him at SeaWorld and he swims in a circle and his dorsal fin falls over because he's depressed. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then we kind of get it. We go, well, yeah, he's a majestic creature supposed to be swimming the world's oceans, hunting seal. And there he is going in a circle, and there's a lesbian feeding trout every day at noon, and he's depressed. Yeah, I'm assuming she's a lesbian. I didn't see a ring on her finger. All right, the point is, well, she was wearing a glove, so maybe I'm being unkind, but the whole point is that's not what they're meant to do. They're meant to be in the open sea, and we get it with elephants at the zoo. These people, the people that are protesting who want the elephants removed from the zoo because that's not their habitat. They need to roam. They're getting depressed. They're walking in a circle. They're getting psoriasis on their skin. They're depressed. These are the same people that want us to have 15-minute cities and live on top of each other and all eat in some communal slop house. They're not the ones who want acreage and land and space and all the stuff we as a species need, so they see it with the elephants and they see it with the whales, and they would all protest to set them free. And then they'd want us to get back on our public transportation and go back to our single flats in the middle of a crime-ridden city. So that's what they think for us, the species. And what I'm saying is this is an experiment. And people, I think, got the social media part of it. They go, we don't know how this is going to affect kids long-term on their phone. We're not meant to read stories about ourselves or doom scroll all day. I would argue we're not meant to be indoors sitting in air conditioning looking at our phone. Forget about the phone. We're not supposed to be we're supposed to be out, swinging an axe, tilting up a barn, on our feet, moving, sweating, communing with nature, like building something. We're not supposed to be in here crunching data all day. And I do think there's I also think there's an inability to think because of that. And bigger picture, we don't have a relationship with danger that we used to have, which is a super important quality to have and needs to be sort of bestowed on every future generation, which is, when the dad takes the son out to, shoe the horse or deal with the livestock, or you don't want to get kicked in the head by a donkey. You don't come up behind the donkey and slap it on the ass, And when you go, I'm a carpenter, so I work with tools all the time. Every tool does something different and sort of poses its own threat or sense of danger. You have to kind of respect it. You have to kind of know what it does, because if you don't, it'll bite you. It'll screw with you. You'll lose a finger. You'll get injured, So we used to sort of go through every day going, I need to use this tool. I got to fire it up. It could bite me, but I'm going to stand where I need to stand. I'm going to do what I need to do. And you just sort of learn these things. And then when something like COVID comes around, you're calibrated. So you go, all right, what are the dangers? Because what we're not going to do is shut everything down and stay at home. We are going to deal with this danger, but we're going to do it in a way like you're going to do in the shop. It's not like we're not going to use the bandsaw. We're going to use the bandsaw, but we're going to use it in a way that is safe, or as safe as we can make it. But the answer isn't don't use the bandsaw, because we got to chop up this log, So we lost our relationship with danger. And I see it all the time. And then you hear these Dumbo mayors of cities going, if we lose one person to COVID, it's like, we're going to lose a lot of people to COVID, idiot. You can't shut all the schools. You can't shut all the businesses. You can't shut all the churches. Yeah, we're going to lose one. We're going to lose one more. We're making these weird safety kind of feminine driven mom proclamations about if one child is let, it's retarded. And it's because they've been indoors breathing air conditioning too long. All the guys I work blue collar jobs with and my like sort of blue collar crew, they had no thoughts about COVID. They just got up and went to work. All the white collar guys were all the pussies when it came to COVID, and they got it all wrong because they were scared because they don't have a relationship with danger.
I love the way the word retarded has come back. It's one of my favorite words.
Me too.
And it's back.
I agree. Bell bottoms, retarded. It's all come full circle. And it's back. I agree. I was told not to use it some years ago, and I rejected that.
Well, it depends, right? Like if you're talking to someone who's mentally handicapped and you're using that word, you're an asshole, and totally. But if you're using it in the way that we're using it to say this is dumb.
Well, also, in the gearhead, as long as we're talking about cars and gears and stuff, when you take a car, you either advance the timing or you retard the timing. So in automotive parlance, you would retard the timing. That doesn't mean that timing has to go to a special school. It just means you take the distributor and you turn it counterclockwise a little, or you advance the timing a little. So like these words live somewhere, like there is retarding this and advancing this. It's an actual thing. We decided we don't want to use the word, but it's the opposite of advance. It's retard. Also with cars, there is a master cylinder and a slave cylinder. And the master cylinder tells the slave cylinder what to do, which is interesting, but it'll never be pulled out of the American lexicon because nerds don't work on cars, and they don't. And by the way, the slave cylinder's for the clutch, and they don't drive a stick. So we're safe with master cylinder and slave cylinder. But in 2025, you can go to auto parts store and you order a slave cylinder.
Wow.
And a master cylinder.
Are they both the same color?
That's a good point. Yeah, it's sort of a gunmetal gray. You're right.
When you say nerds don't work in cars, it's funny because in computers, there used to be a master-slave thing.
Right.
And that got like canceled at some point.
Right, because that's where those guys live, but they don't live in the mechanics bay. And those guys don't care about political correctness. And none of the guys who work in IT know what a slave cylinder is as it pertains to an automotive clutch, basically.
The more I go through life, the more I think, the internet has done some wonderful things, but it's kind of made us all believe that we're far smarter and we know more than we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you saw this during COVID where people would sit down and go, well, you look at this vaccine or whatever else, and they start reeling off stats to you. You go, Dave, you work in a factory. You're not an immunologist. Now, it's not to say you can't have an opinion, but they present themselves as experts. And I think that's kind of a weird place to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the info's there, and it's good, and it's a tool, and it's a tool like, a gun is good if it's in the hands of law enforcement. It's bad if it's in the hands of a gangbanger. But is a gun good or bad? I don't know. It's just kind of a gun. It kind of depends who's wielding it and what they're doing with it. And information is that way. It's like it's a good thing, or someone can get hold of it and sort of twist it and use it to make a point that's incorrect or untrue. And so, but the information is just the information, and I think it's probably, we're going to have to figure out some ways to not only, I think obtaining the information is great, but we're going to have to figure out a better way to digest that information, because a lot of people have common sense. A lot of this is sort of common sense stuff, like where there was a story, I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 years ago, and a lot of women got upset about it because some like Catholic high school boys went to Maui and were harassing and annoying bottlenose dolphins or spinner dolphins. Like that, the story was they were swimming after them and annoying the dolphins. And women really grabbed this, and they're like, those kids with nature and everything. And I was like, that story's not true. And then someone said, how do you know? It's all over the place. These kids, these Catholic kids are harassing these dolphins, upsetting them. I said, the dolphin can swim 30 knots. I mean, the dolphin can swim 35 miles an hour is what one of those things. A Catholic high school kid's good for about 3 miles an hour in the ocean. I do not think there's any scenario where the kid is swimming up on the dolphin and the dolphin can't get away in the open sea or go do whatever a dolphin wants to do. So this is bullshit. And they were like, what? I was like, common sense, logic.
Right.
Logic. Like, I went and looked it up. Like, the fastest a human can swim, Michael Phelps swims at like 3.5 miles an hour or something. Like, it's not fast at all. It's about it. I mean, God bless him, but it's about as fast. I think you could walk, next to the side of the pool and stay up with Michael Phelps while he's swimming, So a spinner dolphin swims at 30 miles an hour. Not going to be caught by Michael Phelps or the high school kid. But unless you have a little logic, you're going to have trouble digesting this story.
And Adam, this is a question I've always wanted to ask you, because you were one of the first people who really made a name for themselves with podcasting, and you've got to have a huge podcast. What responsibility do you feel when you're having conversations? Has that changed over the years, or is it really you are who you are and you do what you do?
I strive for accuracy, although I'm not writing textbooks, so I don't, drill down on it that far. But my thing is, I would like to be accurate over being popular. So a lot of people, I think we get into trouble, certainly during COVID, when people are like, I'd rather have a popular opinion than an accurate opinion, because accurate opinions could get you ostracized or sort of pushed out from your group or your work, or worse, there could be a livelihood issue. For me, it's always accuracy over whatever's popular, number one. And then my opinions are my opinions, and I make peace with them in that I'm thoughtful about my own opinions, even if people think they're sort of snap judgment or they're just flying off the cuff or whatever. Like, I sit back and I observe and I get a picture for where things are going, and then I say something about it. The other day, Dr. Drew said to me, years ago, like in 1997, we interviewed then Bruce Jenner. And then Bruce Jenner left, and then I said, that dude's turning into a chick. And everyone looked at me and went, what are you talking about? It's the world's greatest athlete. And I said, that guy's turning into a chick. He wasn't, this is 28 years ago. He wasn't really doing it yet, but there was something about him that was different. And I could tell something was going on. And I don't know why I said it. I just went, he's turning into a chick. And everyone looked at me and went, I don't, it'd be like if I said, Mel Gibson's turning into a bitch. Everyone would look at me and go, what? No, that's what it was like. He was on the Wheaties box, 15 years earlier. But I saw something and I just said something, and everyone looked at me and went, what? I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, I'm just saying what I saw or what I feel or what I inferred or picked up or whatever it is. And that's all I do. I just do that.
But it's also, as well, you have to make it funny. And that's a real difficult balance, because in order to be irreverent, sometimes you need to go too far. Sometimes you need to push it. You have to find where the line is. In order to find where the line is, you sometimes go over the line. A while back, I pushed myself in training because I'm a bit of a legend, but ended up with a back strain that took far longer to recover from than it ever used to. Nothing dramatic, just one of those moments where you realise your body isn't snapping back the way it once did. And as you get older, those moments start adding up. Turns out there's a real reason for that. Your stem cells are the repair system your body relies on. They're the internal maintenance crew that keeps you healing, recovering, and functioning. But that system slows with age. Fewer cells, weaker signals, slower bounce back. That's exactly why Qualia built their stem cell formula. It uses well-researched ingredients like sea buckthorn and royal jelly to support your repair system so your body can keep doing what it's meant to do. And it isn't something you take every day. Just 4 days a month to help maintain your regenerative capacity over time. So if you've ever felt like your body just doesn't bounce back like it used to, whether it's after a tough workout, getting sick, or the wear and tear of life, Qualia Stem Cell is for you. Qualia Stem Cell was designed to support your body's natural repair systems, helping you heal, recover, and keep going strong. And right now you can try it for up to 50% off at qualialife.com/trig. And here's a bonus. Use the code TRIG for an additional 15% off your order. That's QUALIA life.com/trig. Your body's built to repair itself. Qualia helps it to do that better. Big thanks to Qualia for sponsoring this episode.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is as a comedian, there shouldn't really be a line. You know, I think maybe as a politician or a school teacher, there should be a line, but comedians should be sort of grandfathered in or something in terms of the line. I mean, it's like the extreme example, I guess, would be like a roast, you know? And so you go, well, you're signing up to roast Tom Brady or Donald Trump or whomever. And I've done a few of them. I did Hugh Hefner back in the day. I did Alec Baldwin, and I did Pam Anderson. Not in that order, but I like Alec Baldwin. I would consider him a friend, but now it's time to do the roast. And so I'm going to go up there and say horrible things about Alec Baldwin. But no one goes, oh my God, do you believe what he said about Alec Baldwin? Well, if Alec Baldwin and I were out for dinner and I said that stuff, then that would be horrible. And I don't think we'd be friends, but this is a roast. So there's like a context, right? And it's kind of an extreme context, but this person's going to come on and we're going to say horrible things about this person. But the context is from comedians in a roast setting. So, okay, now it's okay because there's context. And I would argue that context should sort of be built into comedians when they're holding a microphone. Like, okay, it's not a roast, but you're on stage and you have a microphone, or you're doing a podcast, or you're broadcasting, or you're in this format, you have an audience. The audience is either in the room with you, or the audience is at home with their earbuds or jogging or taking their dog for a walk, but that is your audience. And as a comedian, you should be able to say what you want, hyperbole or not, with no lines drawn, as long as you have an audience. Now, if you're talking in your living room and you're making, you're complaining about Polish people or something in the context of just you in your living room and your friend or something, then maybe that is something else. Maybe that's in a different context. My rule is if I'm talking and people are listening, then that's the audience, and I get to say whatever I want.
Well, one of the interesting things that has happened with podcasts, and I think maybe it's why Francis is asking the question, is like a lot of the places where people now get their news or their information about certain things is now podcasts hosted by comedians. You know, Theo Von has become massive as well, Tim Dillon, right? And that's an interesting dynamic as well, that maybe blurs some of these lines, don't you think?
Yeah, it does. But I mean, if you sort of go back and you think about like what Jon Stewart was doing with The Daily Show going back 25 years, he's doing politics and an opinion, and then sort of using comedy to propel and make the point of opinion attached to comedy, attached to politics, So, we look at it as a newer phenomenon because it's in a podcast form, but, go back and watch a Daily Show 20 years ago.
Right.
I mean, I was on the Daily Show 20 years ago, more. I mean, that's what Jon Stewart does. I don't know, it's what Mort Saul would do. There's sort of context for comedians opinions and politics. And I don't think a lot of people would watch The Daily Show and go, this is just a pure comedy show, you know. I think they went, no, I like this guy's opinions, you know, like it's funny, but I get his point and I agree with his point. And so whether that's, you know, Joe Rogan or whomever, I think it's basically an extension of the same thing in a slightly different format. But even that's not that different. Sit down, roll cameras, talk to a guest, express opinion.
That's a really good point. I hadn't quite thought of it like that, but that's absolutely right. I know people who are kind of like default liberals who would say to me, oh, I get all my news from the Daily Show. I get all my news from Stephen Colbert. Which reminds me, Jimmy Kimmel, obviously he had this situation recently where he talked about the Charlie Kirk assassination. He got some facts wrong. He was sort of canceled, but then came back almost instantly. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I talked to him during that interim period, and he kind of, his statement was not well crafted, but his point was different than the way it was interpreted, at least when it was explained to me. And there's a way to sort of read it and understand that that's not exactly what he was pointing at or getting at. But all that being said, I'm not, you know, like I'm for free speech, and then I'm for employers being able to fire whoever they want as well. So I'm sort of like both sides of it. Like I think you should be able to say whatever you want to say. On the other hand, your employer or whoever's paying you should also be able to say, I don't want you to say that, and so I'm going to fire you. So I'm kind of straddling it. I like Jimmy. Jimmy's a very decent guy and a very good guy and a very generous guy. And I've always tried to explain to people that he's not what you think he is because you disagree with his opinions, but also I know Jon Stewart pretty well and Alec Baldwin pretty well. I disagree with them, but I don't think they're bad people or evil people. They're like family-oriented taxpayers. Like I won't include them as part of the problem is what I'm saying. And so Jimmy and I have gone different directions politically over the years. I don't really look at where I've gone as diverging very far from where I was 25 years ago. I was just like, pay your taxes, raise your kids, limited government, take care of yourself, don't rely on the government. That's kind of, I like a little lower taxes and a stout border, and like fill the potholes. Like that's kind of where I've been at. Somehow it turns into other stuff, as you guys probably know as well. Yeah. But by and large, we're sort of live and let live. Like somebody said to me, well, you're conservative. I said, well, all right, let's see if we can unpack that for a second. I don't own a gun. I'm an atheist, and I don't really care about abortion. Like the three major planks of a conservative person: guns, abortion, and religion. I'm 0 for 3 in those three main topics. So you can call me a conservative, but that seemed pretty weird. Like what if I said, oh, you're liberal, you're progressive, but I know you think climate change is bullshit. And I know you voted for Trump, and I know you don't want electric cars, and you're not down with Black Lives Matter. Like you'd go, well, is that really? Mm-hmm. Would you call that person a Democrat, or would you call that person progressive? Like we're living in a time where I can be called conservative and not be 0 for 3 on the first three major planks. I'm not pro-abortion. It's just not, I'm not going to go out and rally. And it's never been a thing. I'm not religious and I don't own a gun. Not against guns and not against religion. I just grew up in the San Fernando Valley. We didn't have guns or religion.
Yeah.
Well, I think you represent, and one of the reasons you've had the success you've had is you represent a kind of blue collar, common sense man, right? And that's what people might call like small c conservative, in that you don't necessarily vote for a particular party, but you think family is important, you think practical reality matters and not floating away with crazy ideas. And it's actually something that's happened in Britain as well. Like, people with a similar disposition in Britain are all called right-wing or even far-right now.
Right.
Because the entire thinking class, if I can say that, the people who make up ideas for a living, they've all gone so far to the progressive direction.
Right.
And so if you believe in family and you believe in reality, you are now a conservative, you know?
Yeah, and also there's a kind of, like you speak about Britain, and I've always said it here, you guys are having your issues with migration and Muslim and culture and that kind of stuff. And I'm not really using it as a pejorative, but it's like I've said it here for years and years and years growing up here. If enough Mexicans come in from Mexico and set up, then we will have the culture of Mexico here. Now you can go, is that good or is that bad? And the answer is, I don't know. Some of it's good and some of it's bad, but that's what you shall have. And we'll have, it'll be the music, it'll be the food, it'll be the culture. I grew up here, there was 0 street vendors. It didn't exist. That was something you'd find in Tijuana. There's no such thing as, when I grew up, walking around LA and seeing people sell stuff on the street, food, flowers, whatever. It literally didn't exist. You go into a restaurant, you go into a store, you don't go out onto the sidewalk and buy food. That's third world shit. Well, now it's a thing.
Right.
Why is it a thing? Because we imported too many Swedes or too many Hungarians? No, there's Mexicans have come in. That's what they do. So you can go, why are you being such a xenophobe? And I'm like, I'm not being xenophobic. I'm just saying you shall have what you import.
Actions have consequences.
If you carpenter ants are going to do what carpenter ants are going to do, if you get a whole bunch of them to land where there weren't any, they're going to start doing what carpenter ants do. That's what they do. If you have a bunch of folks who follow Islam come to Dearborn, Michigan, they're going to start setting up mosques and they're going to do what they do. And then you can go, I like it. Okay. Or you can go, I don't like it. But either way, don't expect the outcome not to be them doing what they're doing. And then eventually they're going to elect people that are like-minded. And then those people are going to say, here's what I'm thinking about in terms of my constituency. And then you're going to have a bunch of Somalians running Minneapolis. But that's what's going to happen. So you have to kind of weigh that in before you open the doors of whatever group is coming in. I wouldn't want it to be all Germans or all, I wouldn't want it to be schnitzel and pizza everywhere either. Like I like the balance, but this is something that's happening. Europe is running into it. We're kind of, New York is kind of just getting there. And people are so scared of being called racist or xenophobic that they don't want to say anything about it.
It's such an obvious and simple, truthful point, though, isn't it? It's like, but I think maybe it's because a lot of these people either have an open door worldview or maybe they just are uncomfortable. I mean, look, Trump is trying to deal with the issue of illegal immigration now, and it looks kind of ugly to a lot of people, right? And so I think because of those realities, people then maybe just pretend or just try to ignore those things that you're talking about.
If you're like us, you believe that understanding how freedom actually works is one of the most important things a citizen can do. That's why I think many of you will find this fascinating. Hillsdale College has just released a brand new free online course on the Federalist Papers, the documents that lay the philosophical and constitutional foundation of the United States. Watch it all now for free at hillsdale.edu/trigger. Even if you're not American, this stuff matters. The Federalist isn't just about one country. It's about how you design a system that protects liberty, limits power, and encourages reasoned debate. And in an age where those things often feel in short supply, this course couldn't be more timely. It breaks down what the founders actually meant, not what modern commentators say they meant. So if you want to deepen your understanding of law, government, and liberty from the people who actually thought it through at the beginning, I highly recommend checking it out. Watch it all now for free at hillsdale.edu/trigger. That's hillsdale.edu/trigger.
Yeah, well, the Trump stuff is kind of interesting because that'll be my metaphor or analogy for that is sort of like you go and because what they do is they create chaos, and then at some point they go, look at all the chaos. And it's like, yeah, I know. That's because you're doing that. And then they go, don't you want the chaos to end? You know, and so what the phenomenon that's kind of interesting with Trump is like, what if I just said as an example, you know, you and your wife, and your wife said, I'd like to go to bed at night and leave the front door open. And you go, I don't want to do that because like raccoons would come into the house, a stray dog, and they go, no, that's what I want to do. And you go, no. And then you come downstairs in the morning, the trash is all torn through because a family of raccoon walked through your living room and so on and so forth. And then you say to your wife, can we just shut the front door? Can we just shut the front door? And she goes, no. And you go, I'm shutting the front door. And you shut the front door. But she's throwing a fit every single night. And then at some point, your kids just go, just open the front door. I'm so tired of hearing her. I'm so tired of the arguing. And you go, but we shut the front door and we didn't get any raccoons. I know, but I don't want to hear this anymore. Just do it. You know, and you go, fine, we'll do it. And so you go, oh, you open the front door. And now there's raccoons back in the house, but there's no more arguing. And at least your kids can go in the room and shut the door and go to bed, you know? And so it's in a way, it's like being blackmailed, right? So you go, I don't want the front door. And I go, yeah, but don't you just want peace? Don't you just want some peace in your home? And you go, okay. And that's sort of what they do. They go out and they fight everything. It could be ICE. It could be a ballroom. It could be anything to do with the border. It could be any transgender. They just fight everything. And then at some point they go, aren't you tired of the chaos? Don't you just want some peace? Don't you want to just get back to normal? Don't you just want to get some middle of the road, somebody, just put our guy in there, open the front door, no more arguments, and we can get on with our life. Wouldn't that be nice? And I'm like, it would be nice, but there's an alternative one, which is you shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, just let ICE do their job. Let the border patrol do their job. How about you just sit back and let everyone do their job for 10 minutes? Let them add a ballroom onto the East Wing. How about that? Because that's the other alternative. I'm going to shut the front door. You shut the fuck up, and we'll get on with our lives with no raccoons. We could do that, but you won't let that happen.
But you know, there is also, I think, an element of this conversation that we're missing, which is when people are being unreasonable, which they are in this situation, when they're being histrionic, when they're creating a fuss, when they want a solution to a problem that we all know is only going to make the problem worse, it's a responsibility of the adults to go, they're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to moan, they're going to kick off, whatever. You just got to just hold the line, and then eventually they're going to realize that all the tantrums, all the screaming, all the shouting doesn't work.
Yeah, well, there's another alternative, which is they'll just take it all and move it to the next crises, you know, which is what they do. No, I agree. The job as the adult is to go, I'm shutting the front door. Kids, your mom's a crazy bitch. And I'm sorry. That's where we're at because I'm not doing this. And that's where we're at. But so many people just go, I don't want to argue anymore. I mean, we just saw it with COVID. I lived in a house with a woman, my ex-wife, and my daughter who were like weaponized with COVID. And I would come walking in and my daughter would start screaming, take off your shoes. and I'd go, there's no correlation between shoes and COVID. So no. And also I pay for everything. So I pay for the shoes, I pay for the floor, I pay for all the stuff. So no. But at a certain point around day 5, when they're having the meltdown and the wife is going, just take the shoes off. She's crying. You know what I mean? Like you go, oh, fuck it. I'll just kick my shoes off. You know what I mean? Because you don't want this.
Right.
Like you just don't want to deal with this. And that was 80% of COVID was just people going, I just don't want to deal with this thing. It's not true. It's not factual. It's not scientific. And yes, I am the adult, but also I'd like just to make it through a day where there wasn't all this friction. You know what I mean?
But you can take that, Adam, and you can use that metaphor, which is very beautifully done and well constructed. And let's go transgenderism.
Right.
I'm a boy, I'm a girl. Someone's a man. They're saying they're a girl. They're having a tantrum, and and then if I want to use the women's toilets, and you go, just go and use the women's toilets.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you've opened that particular door.
No, I agree. I think there's a sort of critical mass, whereas the transgender does not comprise a large enough percentage-wise group of the populace. And the supporters do comprise a larger group, but still it's an 80-20 type thing, whereas COVID was 80-20 the other direction. You know what I mean? And it's the kind of thing where if I had my ex-wife saying to my daughter, shut up, that's your dad, he'll keep his shoes on, then I could have probably pulled it off. But she took her side, which meant it was much more difficult. And so, yeah, I get what your point is, but there are certain things that are overwhelmingly statistically popular, or at least, I don't know if the word is popular, but at least populated. And then there are ones that are more 80-20. And I think the transgender thing, there was a lot of people that were sort of in the shadows. Like they're like, well, I don't agree with this, but I don't want to say anything because I'm scared I'm going to get into trouble or whatever. And then Riley Gaines and a few other people started saying it out loud, or some of the folks, Matt Walsh or whoever, and the quiet Moranos who were hiding in the shadows sort of stepped up and went, yeah, I guess it's safe to come out and give my opinion on that.
It's absolutely true, because when people talk about what's gone wrong, particularly with the UK, and they ask me, and look, it's multifactorial, it's very complicated, but I say that we've got a courage deficit. Yes. I really do. Yes. I think right across the West, we've got a courage deficit.
Yes. Courage meets a kind of a guilt thing and a privilege thing, which I've never really thought about, but maybe we can kind of explore it, which is like a feeling of we've had it pretty good for a long time. We've been in charge for a long time. The heterosexual white male, Crimea River. These guys have been captains of industry and, heads of state and presidents and so on and so forth. So like there's a little guilt, like there's kind of there is a crisis of courage, but I think there's a dusting of sort of guilt on top of it, where it's like, yeah, okay, we've been in charge for so long and we have it pretty good, And so I think it's kind of both. And I agree. And it does, it's basically, it does take courage to take a stand, even when you're coming from a place of privilege. And there's a sort of a thing in the Bible, I think, that says, and it's sort of true. It's like when you're judging somebody, the poor person and the rich person, you got to throw that out the window. It's like, who's right and who's wrong? Because we do a lot of, well, he can afford to pay. And then you go, but the guy didn't do anything to him. It's like, I know, but he can, that's 2 days work for him. You know what I mean? So it starts getting skewed a little bit, like morally. We go like, well, yeah, but he's got his big house up in the hill. I think he's fine. He'll recover. You know what I mean? So there's like a little white guilt mixed in with a lack of courage. And I totally agree. And part of the courage is someone going, hey, you're rich, you're white. What do you complain? And they go, yeah, I'm rich, I'm white. Anyway, now I'm gonna complain. When the LA Unified School District was attacking me, and this will speak to that. The LA School District was attacking me because I was saying, open the school, you cowards, open the schools. It's safe. My kids are home all day. They were in high school at the time. I go, you guys are being cowards. The school union's being cowards. Open the schools. And then they wrote back to me, rich, white Adam Carolla sitting home in a $7 million home, counting his money, sitting in a $7 million home wants us, the poor kids, brown and black, go back. And then I wrote back, they said, he's sitting in a $7 million home. And I just wrote back 7.3 because fuck you. And yeah, I'm rich. Yeah, I'm sitting in, well, it's 7.3, but I'm sitting in my home. I still have an opinion, and you still close the schools needlessly. And what they were doing when they went sitting in a $7 million home is going, shut up, rich guy. Yeah. I dare you to say something else, because we just played poor and brown and black kids school. You sit home in your $7 million house, so shut up. And it would work on most people. Most people go like, okay, all right. I don't want to be called out for whatever. I don't care because I started off poor in life, so I worked, so I don't really, you can't shame me with money because of my past and how I lived, but it works on most people. But it's sort of courage and the rich white privilege part, which is sort of in unison. Like, I think that's what's going on a lot in the UK. Like, it's like,
definitely,
you guys have it real good. You've had it real good. You can't accept a few people that don't have it as good as you. And then you sort of go, okay, I don't want to say anything and be called this.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, Adam. And I one of the reasons I love talking to you is that kind of common sense. You mentioned like you worked and you were poor. And I think that's a kind of big inoculation against all this stuff, because I think the people who do feel really guilty are the people who feel that they haven't earned the things that they have.
Oh, yeah. Well, not only do they not do that, but they overcompensate the other direction. So it's like two guys, same age and about the same height, who grew up in California, are Gavin Newsom and Adam Carolla. I grew up on food stamps and welfare and poor. He grew up in a vineyard with the Getty family. He has to create some alternative life where he had a single mom and he was making mac and cheese and down on his luck, this weird sort of fantasy life that never existed. And then he has to overcompensate, talking about the poor black and the brown and the moms that go without and the living wage and SNAP, and he has to do all that. I'm over here going, I got welfare, and my mom was on welfare and was on food stamps, and I'm like, hey, poor people, get your shit together, because we shouldn't be paying for this, and you don't want us to pay for it because it'll ruin you generationally, which it has, and it does. I saw it. I lived it. I understood it. He is overcompensating and going the other direction. He can't say the things I say because he didn't come from there. It's like stolen valor or something. He wasn't in country in Vietnam. I was in a swamp in Vietnam. I can say what I want. He was in the rear with the gear. He has to overcompensate and go the other direction. And you see that with tons of politicians. If they were poor and they understood it, I tell people all the time, I grew up with poor people. They're not noble. They're not hardworking. They're not smarter. They're a lot of time idiots. They don't know delayed gratification is not part of their world. There's lots of smoking, lots of drinking, lots of money going toward gambling or rims for their cars or lottery tickets or cigarettes or alcohol. They're not hardworking. They're not noble. They're not poor. And they're poor. They're not smarter than anybody. They're not more virtuous. They're not any of the they say. I grew up with these people. They're mostly idiots who don't work hard enough.
Maybe you are conservative. Adam.
No, but it's so funny that you mentioned that. But Adam, as we wrap up, before we go to questions from our supporters, there's one other thing I wanted to ask you with that kind of working with your hands, common sense perspective. It's an issue that everyone's talking about, but I suspect you might have an interesting perspective on it, which is AI and what's coming from that. Do you have any thoughts on this? Because a lot of people are freaking out. There's loads of people think it's the solution to all of humanity's problems. How do you come down on it? We all know smartphones are essential, but they've also become the ultimate surveillance machines. That's why we were so interested when former TRIGGERnometry guest Eric Prince created the UpPhone. This isn't just another handset. The UpPhone runs on Unplugged OS, free from big tech ecosystems. It comes with a firewall that blocks third-party trackers and gives you full transparency into who's trying to access your data. And it works straight out of the box. I got one of these myself because I want to know my phone is serving me, not Google, not Apple, and not some faceless data broker. And that's the point. Your phone should serve you, not spy on you. Check it out at unplugged.com/TRIGGERnometry and use our code TRIGGERnometry for $20 off a protective case with the UpPhone.
I don't think it's ever hurt when a technology has sort of replaced something that's sort of a legacy that has been there. So, when the automobile replaced the horse, then that's fine. Now, I didn't ride a horse here today. I drove an electric car. So, fine. Now, there is a thing where it took several decades, maybe 50 years from the horse to the car. It didn't take 18 months, which could definitely cause a problem if you're in the saddle making industry or the riding crop industry or whatever. Yeah, that if it takes 50 years, then you transition and it's nice and gradual and smooth. If it happens overnight, there's going to be issues. So I kind of get that part of it. The other part where you're, taking these numbers and things and data and entry and sort of streamlining it and what have you, that's fine. Like efficiency, going from the prop airplane to the jet airplane or whatever that thing, whatever your example of efficiency is, it's good. It's always good. It's progress. It's human progress. And by the way, it can't be stopped because that's who we are. It's always, how could this be faster? You know what I mean? Like I was going to drive to my office, but I'm now going to take a zip line because it's actually faster on the zip line. So this can't be avoided. I would use it as an opportunity to have a conversation about trades and skills and things that can't be replaced with AI. Like I was doing a vlog. I've been doing a vlog on the Malibu fires and the Palisades fires and stuff like that. And less than a week ago, I was on the job site of a house that was being framed, one of the few in the Palisades. And I was walking through it, and I've been on a million job sites when I used to work for a living. So I recognized all the, straps and the clips and the plates and the shear walls and all. And I was talking with the contractor and stuff. There was 20 guys buzzing around that with their bags on, circular saws, hammering away, nail guns, compressors going off. There is no world where AI and a robot is going to be able to do that in the foreseeable future. There just isn't. Then the trades come in, the electricians, the plumbers, the pipe fitters, foundation, whatever, HVAC, helicopter pilots, they're all coming in. I've been sort of talking a lot about the trades and getting young people and poor people and inner city people, like get them a trade. I walked around, I asked the general contractor, I said, what are these guys? Every guy on the job's getting paid $350, $400 a day. They're making good money. They're on their feet. They have dignity. They have pride. They have a skill. And, as AI as you want, who's coming to your house to snake out your toilet or unclog your sink? I mean, that's a long ways away. So look, if you have a job, but we're going through it with Hollywood, you know what I mean? Like when I used to do TV shows, you'd look at the call sheet, there'd be 7 producers on there. I never seen one of them on set once. There'd be just people getting paid, names. I don't even know who these people are. They weren't even, they weren't necessary to the production. We wrote it, we acted, so there's a lot of people that are sort of fingers in the hands in the cookie jar, so to speak. They've thinned that out. I mean, they don't have those big deals anymore and all the production and all the producers and all that. They're a little leaner, a little meaner. You got to earn your keep. And if you're doing a job and that job's not that important and you can be replaced by AI, then you're going to be replaced by AI. You're going to have to start thinking about jobs that are more substantial, more meaningful, and have that cannot be replaced by AI. And like I said, trades. And that doesn't mean rolling around in the dirt all day. It means you can make good money, get a crew together, make a great living for your family. And I think that hopefully AI will drive the useless people that are filling the cubicles out of their useless cubicles and on to the job site.
That's very interesting. And I assumed you would say something along those lines because I agree with you that those jobs are far less likely to be affected. I guess the thing that I probably worry about is what will happen is when you drive those people out of the cubicle is they're not going to go on the job site.
No.
They're going to say, I'm a victim, I deserve help. And then we're all going to go, well, I guess you do. And then you've got even fewer people working and AI takes over. And you kind of, I guess the logical destination for me is as the jobs disappear, you almost inevitably head towards a kind of the robots and the AI does everything. And then we have communism, which is everybody gets, you get your set amount of money
right
from the government.
Universal income.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of that.
No, I don't imagine you are. But that's kind of what I think about. But I think your point is interesting about maybe people are underestimating the amount of time it will take for this transition to happen and will adjust over time as we have in the past.
I think historically it's hard to argue with that. And I also think that the time between the horse and the automobile is lessened each generation. It the technology brings it faster, and we're more equipped to handle it in a more efficient, faster way. So I have faith in humanity that way.
Well, Adam, it's always great to have you on. We're going to ask you some questions from our supporters in a second. But as you know, the last question we always ask is what's the one thing we're not talking about that we should be?
Gynofascism. I figured you'd make that look. It's something I've been thinking about a lot over the last 20 years. We need more women in positions of power. We need more women making the calls and calling the shots. We need a woman president. We need a woman prime minister. We need more feminine presence everywhere. And LA is mostly women city council. We have a female mayor, and we don't get anything done. And I started to really think about there's a difference between the male brain and the female brain. And the male brain wants to do stuff go, go, go. If you want to know the difference between the male brain and the female brain, Karen Bass and Donald Trump got together 3 days after the fires. And Donald Trump was like, let's get going, move, clean up those lots. Let's get building. And she was like, slow it down, slow it down. She is a process person, and women are more likely to be process people. They talk, they want to talk it out, they want to work, they want to have a meeting, and they want to break off and have another meeting, and then we put together a blue ribbon panel. And so in LA, we have a homeless problem. And the homeless problem keeps getting worse every year, but we keep having more conversations and more panels and more groups, but it's mostly women, and nothing ever gets enacted. And we are heading toward a society that used to be men, testosterone. And by the way, I'm not making this up. You're going to see more articles and stuff coming out that the feminine mind is different, and the feminine mind is also satiated by actually discussing the thing. So if we're sitting here and, you're going, we should take this and move this wall and do a thing. The feminine mind actually feels like we did something, whereas the male mind is like, we haven't done anything. We just keep talking about this thing that we're not doing, and it's frustrating versus satiating. So the feminization is causing a huge shift in our culture. We just got crushed by COVID, especially in Los Angeles, because we had a female health director. And by the way, men can be stricken with this. Gavin Newsom's a pussy, and Eric Garcetti, our former mayor. Justin Trudeau thinks like a chick. Mm-hmm. You can tell, watch them cross their legs. Watch Obama and Trudeau and Newsom. When they cross their legs, it's a full chick. And they're signaling, they're presenting. They're going, I have chick dick. So it's a thing. It's happening. It's going to happen. And it will fuck up our society, because if something like COVID comes around, their plan is nobody leaves their house, shut all the schools. I'm done here. That's not how do we work. How do we deal with the danger? Dealing with the danger is shut down. Barbara Ferrer, the health whatever crazy witch who ran this town, her plan was just shut it down. Rochelle Walensky, CDC, just nothing. Just shut it all down. And by the way, lie if you have to keep it shut down. So there is a gyno-fascism that's sort of coming, and it was a lot of years of like, well, if we just had women in charge, we wouldn't have wars, we wouldn't have crime, we'd have a better society. People would, no, it is not. Los Angeles is basically run by women and is run into the ground. And there's a problem. There's going to continue to be a problem, and we'll see it growing. You'll see more articles on it. There'll be more tests on it, and it'll be less, oh, Adam is just spouting off because he's a misogynist. No, it's a mindset. It's a female mindset and a male mindset, and it's skewing toward the female, and our society is going to suffer.
So there was a lady who wrote a viral article about this called Helen Andrews.
Yes.
I take it you read it.
I did, because everyone sent it to me, because they went, this is what you've been saying for 20 years, and we're here. We're going here. And you go, oh, Adam, you're such a douche, knuckle dragging misogynist. No, women are writing articles on this. There is a difference between men and women, and there's a balance. And it's a good balance. It's a husband and a wife and a child and a home. When you skew it too far the other direction, the feminine direction, there's going to be consequences. That's going to be our future.
Well, she's coming on the show soon, so we'll explore that with her as well. Adam, awesome to have you on.
Hold on, is she hot?
I don't know. I haven't. You've put me really on the spot there. Because that's the question.
Well, tell her I'm a fan, because I'm pretty, I'm not a scholar. And I read every page of her article, and I was like, she's dead nuts on.
There you go, Helen. Adam is a big fan, and we're big fans of yours, Adam. Thanks for giving us your time again.
Thanks for having me.
Always so great hanging out with you. Head on over to triggerpod.co.uk, where Adam's going to answer your questions.
When you think about giving your take on the ability of the LA wildfire victims to rebuild from that hotel room, how angry are you that your prediction was 100% correct?